Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still tuned into the biggest youth show in the mother, Lindsay, right here, Channel 260, all the way till 6 o'clock, keeping you entertained. More importantly, though, today we're talking all things that have to do with generational trauma, and I think the topic is so important. We had the first
100%.
half, and obviously our guests are Aneeqa as well as Haneem. Welcome again. Let us dive straight into the conversation.
So earlier we got cut off a little bit because live TV is as live TV does. But it's such an important conversation around generational trauma. Let's say you've identified, that part of the issue is generational trauma. Now what? How do we move forward? What are the processes of healing? And obviously there's no DIY 5-step guide, then you sorted.
Yeah.
So what are your suggestions and your recommendations?
That is a tough question.
Yes.
I wish there was a 5-step program or a DIY.
Don't we all?
that will just fix it.
Yeah.
But the thing with intergenerational trauma, and I wish I could give you a simple 4-minute answer, but it doesn't work that way. So for example, let me make another example of what intergenerational trauma is. Poverty is intergenerational trauma, right? Microaggressions that currently happen in the world is intergenerational trauma. It's something that affects people of color largely, right? So when we start identifying ways to kind of heal, it means that we've got to look at our social system. We've got to look at our environment in which we exist. We've got to look at the systematic challenges that people face when we talk about healing from intergenerational trauma. So refer back to the example I made earlier. So if you grew up in a household where everybody's shouting, right, and that makes you feel uncomfortable, or that makes you feel anxious, or that makes you feel scared, or some type of way that is just not okay, a quick way or a quick fix, right, is to go, okay, so this is not okay for me. I'm not okay with this kind of communication. So then I need to make the conscious decision to break the cycle, right? And so this is when we talk about healing from intergenerational trauma, is breaking the cycle, right? Going, the bus stops here. Thank you so much, but it's not me. So when I have kids, I'm not going to be shouting and screaming because I'm angry or frustrated or stressed. I'm going to go, okay, so mommy's having a really tough day, right? Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to tell my kid, hey, I have emotions. This is how I'm feeling, right? I'm going to say, I love you more often. I'm going to say that you are enough. I'm going to say all of these positive affirmations because I don't want my trauma to become my child's trauma. Right?
Do you have anything to add to that?
I think more than anything else, we actually have to maybe acknowledge that we all have intergenerational trauma. We need to, as South Africans, we need to just genuinely acknowledge it. And more than anything else, own it, because it's who we are. Right?
That's so true,
And so if we start having these conversations with each other on so multiple levels, if we started at schools, for instance, and we make all these social systems accountable, as Aneeqa had mentioned, if we make them accountable and we start having these conversations, and then just perhaps we could see some kind of difference. And look, obviously there is hope on the horizon. And I think this generation that we are living in right now, you guys are amazing, so the changes are there. No, absolutely, absolutely, it's amazing. It's amazing how awareness is coming forward and the education is coming forward. So we're talking about it and there are definite changes, but we genuinely just need to keep going because it's a good thing happening here.
And people are a little less afraid to go to therapy and less afraid to talk about it. Whereas previous generation, we were chatting about it off camera as well. They're like, therapy for what and for who and for why. So I think there's a lot to be proud of to unpack that.
Yeah, the stigma is going back by a mile, and that's incredibly amazing. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you for chatting to us. Guys, remember that our conversation for today is everything that has to do with generational trauma. So if you have anything to add to that, please do hop on our socials and let us know. It is XA Live on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. Let us know if generational trauma has affected you or your family in any way. Right now, though, we feel like we need to know what's happening in the streets. What are the people saying about intergenerational trauma?
I think it's all about dealing with it. This is the thing. If you don't realize that you have a problem, or if you don't say it in the face, like for argument's sake, if you have been abused emotionally or physically or mentally or psychologically, and you don't say, it's to admit to yourself, this has happened to me and how can I move forward from it? Because if this has happened to me, then I can deal with it, and then I don't transfer it onto my kids. Because if I don't deal with it, and I don't admit that this has happened to me, then how am I gonna prevent it from happening to my kids? Because now this is the thing, we admit for argument's sake that yes, I've been maybe abused sexually, but we don't deal with it, so we can't heal from it. So either we raise our daughters as to be fearful and to see each and every man as a man that wants to take advantage of me, or we raise our daughters to be so masculine and so overprotective, So it's for us to deal with it and to heal from it and to look it in the face and say, this has happened and this is how I'm going to move forward from it. This is how I'm going to heal myself. Because if we, this generation of now, don't deal with the stuff that we are going through now, then we're going to carry on things that has happened to us in the past and that's happened to us now, to our generation that's still to come, to our kids.
I only think it can be prevented and or cured with, maybe some economic balance in the black community maybe, or for everyone, because the country's pretty much going downhill right now, not even gonna lie, with the load shedding and the things, but yeah.
So I haven't had a lot of the things that I described, but I have faced a lot of, gangsterism in the area where I live in Mitchell's Plain. And it does affect you to some degree because I've had personal interactions with family members that either were gangsters or wanted to be gangsters. And I had friends, obviously, that went into that direction. So I think it does affect me. Indirectly, alcoholism plays a role because people don't realize how alcoholism can affect people. Because I didn't know my grandparents, but my grandfather was a bit addicted to alcohol. And it was never labeled as that, because back in the day, everyone drank. So I saw the effects that it had on my mother and her sisters and brothers. So I kind of know those two aspects of it, for me at least.
For me, you can just be kind to people. I mean, you can't have trauma if you're kind. So that's what I think at least. So if you treat people with respect, then you can prevent all of that. So.
Uhambe therapy, uhambe counseling, uthethe nje nabantu so that lento ifilayo ngaphakathi ingaweyisheli, understand?
Man, it's always so good to hear from the people in the streets. The one that was tricky to me is the one that said you can't have trauma if you're kind.
That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. But remember, guys, to answer our social media question, it is what intergenerational trauma has affected you and your family? Remember to answer that. It is XA Live across all social media platforms.
And folks, remember that we've got, generational trauma it's a dense topic.
Yeah.
We know that. We know we can't cover everything in 4 minutes, but we really hope that we've sparked a little bit of interest. Maybe you can have a chat with your friends, with your family, hop onto the Google machine and just do some research of your own. But right now we've got an ad break, so make sure that you just stay tuned, but just for a few seconds
And then you
longer.
must come back because we have the biggest youth show in the motherland. See you after this.